Welcome to North Somerset, and Nigel the dog was quite a character, liked to be pushed everywhere in his pushchair. He does have a bit of a bad back. And Tallulah, the Siamese cat, who's 14, who is a bit lame but ever so sweet. They're very precious animals, like to be in your bed, and this is them curled up. In the car seat, she dominates for sure. I took Nigel up to Clifton in Bristol and had a look over the suspension bridge, which was cool, before going to Cheddar. And of course you have to buy a piece of cheese from the cheese shop in Cheddar, the only place that actually makes it in the world from Cheddar. And it was rather delicious. Very expensive, but you've got to do these things. The gorge itself was magnificent. I had a drive through there after Nigel and I had a little bit of a picnic on the side of the rocks. It was a beautiful landscape. The village itself was very sort of touristy, these places. But the cliffs themselves were quite spectacular to have a drive through. And Nigel and I managed to perch on a rock and share a little bit of a deli selection, which he quite enjoyed. And the house itself was very cute, overlooking the Mendip Hills to the back. Lots of plants, lots of pots, gardens on all sides, quite a modern house. And they had a plumber installing a toilet for 4 days, so it was rather a busy household for a while. But the gardens were beautiful. And Nigel loved sitting in his car seat, having a view out, and this is by the beach, which obviously goes out to the Bristol Channel. And this was a derelict pier out. That was a restaurant that my friend Tracy and I were later going to eat at Revo. And the view of Weston Super Mare, I felt sorry for the kids that had come for the summer holiday outing day on this cold, blustery summer's day. But Nigel did enjoy having a scamper on the beach, although I later realised you'd actually allowed dogs on the beach, but hey, you've got to love a view down a pier. The tide goes out so far down there. And typical tourist town with all the arcades. I remember for hours I used to spend in there as a kid, or similar, not at Weston. And here's Nigel on his favourite position of an evening. Everything is dashioned in the house, cushions and extra bits. It's a still shot of the view, even a little bit of blue sky. We came back, carried him down all the stairs, and tempting him with a little bit of something in a pushchair. All a new thing for me. Went to the woods, saw a squirrel. He was quite active, about to collect a little bit of food off the floor, which I managed to video. The woods themselves were beautiful. Real old woodlands. Went on for miles. We went there a couple of times. The squirrel was fun to watch. Off he goes. And back in the house, Nigel and Tallulah. You can see who's boss. She just sits on him, which was quite amusing. Again in their basket. And my friend Tracy came down again and we went out for dinner, Nigel in his pushchair. We must have looked a right pair in our matching red jackets and jeans and the dog. Oh well, it was a laugh. Cold, wet, summer's evening. 5 a.m. on a Saturday morning. The rain hasn't stopped. It's 12 degrees. Went out for dinner at the seaside last night. Much the same weather. Oh God, it's just like winter. Later the day it dried up and did a big walk through Weston Woolbury. And it was a long trek that took us over to the beach. But the woodlands there were great. And I felt I deserved half a pint once I arrived. It had been a long trek with that pushchair through the woods, over the rocky terrains, past the iron forts. And I like this one, the fork in the road in the forest. Which path will you choose? We've come up today to Breen Down. And it's a bright morning for once. The rain's coming in later, of course, but I wanted to come up with 2 days past a new moon. The tides are in. It's really beautiful. Without it being blustery. Across to Wales, so it'll be about an hour's round trek up here. I've just walked up this extremely steep hill with the pushchair. So it's a little bit panty, but it is lovely. And I'm going to go and see the Iron Fort, see what's there. How lovely to have a still day without rain. Cattle graze freely up at Breen Down, as many places are. So there's the times that he's zipped up in his pushchair. I don't need any cows. Going there, Nigel. And this is the old fort at the end of Breen Down. It was quite a spooky place. They'd obviously used it in the war time and barracks over the years and prior to Second World War. It was a very strange place, jutting out. The energy was a bit creepy, but it was good to see, and I love being up there, and I love doing, 90-minute walks, not seeing another soul. They were the barrack buildings. And then once we'd done the peninsula, walked back up. It was beautiful, and took a pause for breath over the hillside. I loved that walk. So I've made it to the top of the Iron Fort hill, past from where we walked. Again, it's just a higher view from where we've been. The barracks are down below, the island across, all the way over to Wales. And down, let's look up what that hill down there is. Beautiful, not seen another soul. And I've liked this the whole way. Nigel, on the other hand, is having a ball. And this is the view down to the coastline below at Breen. That is 224 steps that I carried Nigel in his pushchair down. Honestly. And then we had a little bit of a walk on the beach, which was lovely. It was gentle and the tides were out. He was exhausted, and Nigel likes to sleep in your bed. Bless him. I headed off to Bath on one of my final days. This is Bath Abbey here. Rather magnificent building and the front portico. Tourists everywhere, as you would expect, with the Roman baths next door, which of course was an obligatory tour stop. That's the pump room where you can go and have posh nosh. So I joined the throngs and went into the baths. I haven't been there since a kid. It's just as you see it on the films and everything, but there's far more people. There's one with Bath Abbey in the background. It was most interesting. As I say, I am a bit challenged when places are very crowded of people. The original edge bit portico. So down below were all the Roman ruins and history of things, which was most fascinating. I'm sorry I can't spiel it off, but this was interesting. This Celtic, British Celtic words, and this display of monuments. And this is the last piece of British Celtic words in origination. It's really quite amazing. And then here's a description of it. A text in British Celtic, only one to survive anywhere, but cannot be translated. How's that? Blew me away. And again, it just looks like a pile of bricks, but really there are the Roman aquifers down here where they used to bathe, and the hot springs come up. It's an incredible place, a real work of nature, working with nature. And the viaduct and aqueducts, not viaducts, aqueducts. Viaducts go over, aqueducts go under. And I managed to sit at the side of the bars with the rain. So all the heat would have come up through the floors. Hot rooms, cold rooms, women's rooms, men's rooms. It was fascinating. And obviously we moved on to the inside of another beautiful church here. The Bath. Real crescent. You've seen it on all the movies. Now it's here. In real life. Amazing. The last video was the circle, not the crescent. This is the crescent. I thought it looked a bit different to what I was expecting, but there we go. Complete semicircle overlooking a beautiful lawn. And back again. A still shot of the crescent. We had a walk around on the grass and Nigel could stretch his little legs. And then once I left Weston Super Mare, heading down to Arundel, I went to Old Sarum on the way. I loved this place. It was beautiful. That sign says, "Beware, the scene will stay with you forever." So Old Sarum was the history, or the place before Salisbury sprung up, the original place of the cathedral and the King's Palace, etc., before Salisbury was built just over the brow. I'm here at Old Sarum, this ancient city, or ancient, middle-aged city, I should say, not ancient, above Salisbury as I passed through from Weston Super Mare through down to Arundel. And it's quite an amazing, expansive space. I can't tell you where everything is other than this would have been the King's residence. There would have been a cathedral over there, which was rebuilt. And it was an old city, old city meeting grounds down there. It was all knocked down, taken apart in the 16th century, as these things were. So all that's left is the flint of the places. But it's quite a sight to see. And the countryside is amazing. Some of the ruins of the entry places here, and the flint, all the upper layers got demolished. You can see at a squint Salisbury through the trees there somewhere. I'm at the other side of Old Sarum now, and the view to Salisbury Cathedral directly between the two trees there. You see the spire above the ground, over to the side. I absolutely love this part of the world. I mean, the sun just needs to come out a little more, and that would be it. Getting the required selfie with the views. I was there. This describes the beginning of Salisbury and how it came about. You always pause and have a read of them rather than me reading it out. There you can see Salisbury Cathedral a little more detail with a lovely caravan park in front. But it is a lovely neck of the woods. There's so much to do. The Conqueror's Inheritance. So yes, all this dates back to 1066 and around that time. And it's surrounded by a moat, but I love the pink flowers growing on the banks there. And I did a walk around the Great Mound. And then the car breaks down on the motorway. RAC called out, go to a garage. And the Misty Whippy van turned up. Oh, a sight for sore eyes. A long day.